Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and Happy New Year, and welcome to episode number 350 episode of Mets Musings, and hope you all had a great holiday season, and we're back with more episodes, and we're going to do something that we did last year. We did a fan forum. It was a great time. Everybody loved it. So we're back again. Slightly different cast of characters this time, but just one change, really. But we're back. And with me tonight is my former co-host and Mets extraordinaire, knowledgeable person, Barry. Barry's over there. Barry, welcome back to Mets Musing.
Thank you, Gary. I'm happy to be here. You guys had such a blast on that last roundtable meeting. I just couldn't wait for you to do another one, and I'm glad to be a part of this one. And a Happy New Year to you, Gary, as well.
Well, we're so happy to have you with us, and also joining us this evening is the boys from Baseball and BBQ, and they are back to comment on the Mets with us. Len and Jeff, guys, welcome back.
Thank you. Gary. Thanks, Gary. I'm glad the price you're charging us to come back isn't too high. So thanks.
And Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Same to you. We're only charging by the hour here to use the studio. We are in a different location tonight. We're in Studio B. This is actually the Talking Golf with Gary. Get that plug in there, if I may. Studio. So, but it's more conducive to having people, a number of people, as is the other one, just really a one-person studio. So that's why it looks a little different behind me this week. But we'll get back to the old place coming up as the season progresses. But we're here really tonight to talk about the Mets a little bit here, and basically we have a new general manager, and we talked about him the last time, but now he's actually gone to work and done some things. So Barry, let's start with you. What do you think of the job that Mr. Van Wagenen has done so far?
Well, Gary and Jeff and Len, it's definitely a GM that thinks outside the box, which kind of goes against what the Mets have done over the years. I would say that the job is not finished yet because there are still holes that need to be plugged in, but so far he's on the right track.
And guys, what's your thoughts on Mr. Van Wagenen?
Jeff, go ahead.
Well, he's made those trades, for Cano and Diaz, which are, good pickups. I think Cano, even though he's at the later end of his career, he is still, right now, the best hitter on the team. And Diaz is really a very good closer. I'm concerned that we have at first we didn't have enough outfielders, now we have too many, with picking up Kenyon Braxton, but not only him. I just remembered Grego Blanco we picked up, and Rajay Davis we picked up. So we have a plethora of center fielders, not a very good. Well, I shouldn't say not very good ones. They're very adequate ones. But the big guy out there is AJ Pollock, which I guess the fans want, and I fear he's probably too expensive to get.
Well, I think a lot of those guys, too, were just really insurance in case somebody gets hurt, mainly Juan Lagares, who tends to get hurt all the time. So, they picked up a number of guys just to cover themselves. But, Len, what are your thoughts on the job that Brody Van Wagenen, I think I'm saying that right, is doing so far?
One, the big trade he made with Cano and Davis, right? Diaz, sorry. I thought it was interesting. I think I might have mentioned this on the last episode. he was involved in the whole deal with Seattle, right? I think he negotiated that. And it was just very interesting. As an agent, he probably said to Seattle, 10 years, you won't regret the last few years of that deal. He'll be just as good in the beginning as he is in the end. And now look who's got the end of the contract. He does. So it's just funny that let's see what happens with that. This past weekend, he made a number of moves. I can't say that I followed them all because it seemed like every hour there was a different move made. I know he traded Plawecki, but those moves, the little ones, right? The ones that you really, maybe you don't know the players as well. Those are the ones that later in the season are the ones that seem to be the moves that you're like, oh, wow, I'm glad we got this guy. So he's busy. He's not staying put. He's doing a lot, moving a lot of pieces, and I think he's, based on the activity, he's doing fine. Let's see what happens in the season and spring training, and I'd like to see what the team is when he's all done.
Well, I think he's doing okay. I'm glad that he's being a little aggressive and talking about aggressive. That's my dog Jackson putting his 2 cents
He's
in. I
giving
guess
his-
he likes the job that
You like Van Wagenen?
the job he's doing so far.
Oh, he doesn't like the Plawecki deal.
No.
Gary, he's upset.
Well,
I
that's
think he's a
because
big
he
Plawecki
listens
fan.
to me. He knows I wasn't crazy about trading Plawecki either, because I thought he was probably the better of the two between him and Darno. Darno being injured all the time, but and Plawecki's a year or two younger. So
Well,
I thought,
if I may, Gary, if you don't mind. First of all, Plawecki signed he avoided arbitration today with the Indians.
With
But
the
I think
Indians?
they kept Darno because Brody said he's more versatile. He can play different positions, which I think is the reason why they kept Darno instead of Plawecki.
And Gary, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to jump in on the Darno versus Plawecki apparent disagreement between some of the Mets fans and what have you. I'm not exactly sure, and I'm not the biggest fan of Darno, but I'm not exactly sure when Plawecki became the second coming of Johnny Bench and Darno the second coming of Junior Ortiz. But the difference is not that great between the two guys. And I think between Wilson Ramos and Darno, hopefully you get 162 games combined out of the two of them, and the trick will be that they're not injured at the same time. So you'll have a somewhat quality catcher all the time in the Mets lineup. I mean, when Darno was healthy, he's a decent player, and as a backup catcher, Ramos is going to get hurt. He's the one player for now comes to the Mets with a history of injury, so we know what we're getting with him. But obviously the Mets had to do something about the catching position, and like you guys said, there's still other positions that they have to improve on. But it is only January 9th, so there is time. But again, Plawecki versus Darno, I don't see being that big a deal.
It's funny because it's an injury-prone team, right? They're an injury-prone team, and they're bringing in guys who are injury-prone. I mean,
the thing that concerns me.
Yeah. They're injury-prone, and you're bringing them in.
With the exception of Cano, because he does play every day. Now, he won't hustle to first base, but he'll play every day.
And A.J. Pollock, too.
Right.
He's had one full season, which was a tremendous season, but the last 2 years, he's averaged about 15 to 20 home runs, about 400 at-bats, maybe a 260, 265 average. And the numbers we're hearing for Pollock, those are insane. I was hearing like 5 years, 75 to $80 million. I mean, for that kind of production, I mean, you want a little something better than that.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I guess just going back to the Plawecki thing, I just think out of the choices that they have now, he would be the least one to get hurt. And between Darno and Ramos, I think we're going to see a lot of Tomas Nido this year catching. Now, maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe his time will come. He's still young, and he has had exposure the past 2 seasons, which is a good thing. He's got the experience. The pitching staff knows him, so there's not going to be that gap of him coming in cold, and maybe he'll be another year older, another year stronger. He'll know the league. Maybe he'll hit a little bit better. He did get some big hits. He got some nice hits towards the end of last season when he was playing a lot more. Interesting that Devin Mesoraco is still out there. I mean, there's still a bunch of free agents out there too. So, there'll be guys that maybe they can pick up if need be come spring training. But I just thought that the Plawecki, I thought because of the youth, and I get what you said, Jeff, about the versatility. They say he can play left field. Now all of a sudden he can play third base. We're going to have 14 guys playing third base and 12 playing first, and none of them are first baseman or third baseman. I saw a thing last night on MLB, and they've got Jeff McNeil penciled in at first base. And I thought he was going to play third base with Frazier or switch off with Frazier. Now all of a sudden he's playing first base. I don't know. I like to have a guy. What happened to Alonso and the guy that I think is totally lost. And you guys can agree or disagree with me, but you don't hear a peep about Dominic Smith. It's like he just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Right. No, it's true. I think Dominic Smith will probably start the year at first base because they have to keep Alonso down there for 2 weeks, to keep that eligibility. But it's I think Smith will be first. But McNeil is supposed to be the new versatile guy who can play everywhere. The Zobrist type of player.
Yeah.
And the Met fans are going to lose their mind when that happens, when they do send Alonso down for the first couple of weeks to control his service time. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I agree 100%. He will not start the season on the big league roster, but hopefully he'll come up shortly after that and be the type of player that the Mets and the fans hope he will be.
Yeah, because he'll have a great spring training, and that's what'll happen. He'll have a great spring training, and then they'll send him down for those 2 weeks. Yeah.
Well, and that's the business of the game. Every team does it now, and I guess you have to expect that to happen at this point in time. All right, so we think he did a pretty good job so far. What do you guys think about some of the trades that he has done? We mentioned about the Cano and Diaz. You like that deal. What about this Broxton trade? Anybody got any input on that? Barry, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, sure. It doesn't exactly move the needle for me, but he had a decent season a couple years ago. He had 20 home runs. He steals some bases. He's a good defensive center fielder. Does he get my level of excitement up to the point where I want it to be? No, but what are they that the Mets need depth, and Juan Lagares is going to get hurt, and the Mets need backup players, I suppose, if they don't do anything else. You guys touched on A.J. Pollock. To pick him up at those kind of dollars, I just don't think he's worth that kind of that kind of money for those number of years, considering the history of injury. But if the market come down a little bit for Pollock, and he's a local guy, I'd love the Mets to try and get him, and then maybe you work out a deal. I'm sure that there would be other teams that would have a need for a pretty good defensive center fielder like a Juan Lagares. I don't think Jackson is too happy about it, so that automatically makes him my wife's favorite dog because Juan Lagares is her favorite player.
I tell tell you, the guy I really wanted the Mets to pick up was the center fielder from Minnesota, Byron Buxton, I think his name was. But Kenyon Braxton is the same type of player, and they really didn't give up much for him.
Jackson.
The only player I know that they gave up of the 3 players they did was Bobby Wall, who they got from the Jerry's Familia deal, along with Will Toffee.
Yeah.
2 other ones, Adam Hill and Bobby and Felix Valero. Never heard of them, so it's really no big loss.
And as I said, these are the moves that later in the season, they fortify your bench. They might pan out. I like the move of taking David Wright into the front office. I got to tell you, that's a good move. There you go. That's a move that I know. I recognize that name, David Wright, front office.
The thing about that is they did release him from the 40-man roster. So
right.
Now,
exactly.
Now they have a roster spot they can use.
So he's going to be the highest paid front office guy.
Yeah, well.
But you know what? Do they have to give him a salary for that as well? He probably said, wait a second. You got to give me a salary for front office. Well, the playing thing, that's separate.
They save the meal money, though.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Well, they restructured his contract.
Right.
He's only going to get $9 million this year instead of $15 million. So he'll save them some money.
And then he goes on the Bobby Bonilla plan.
And he goes on the Bobby
but not as long, though, thank goodness.
Right.
But it's only for a couple of years,
right.
I think. I don't think it's as long as Bonilla.
Right.
But, and then I think I wrote you today, Barry, that asking the question, with Cespedes, they should have some insurance money coming on Cespedes, I would imagine. So,
I guess they will be able to use that money because he's if he plays at all this year, it's not going to be till very late in the season.
Right.
And with the Mets, it's always later than sooner. So anything the Mets get out of Cespedes this year is a bonus.
Yeah, without a doubt. And they kind of even said that. I think Brody said, Omar Minaya said that a few weeks ago or last week, that anything they get is going to be gravy out of Cespedes. So, are they still needing a bat? Do they still need something? I mean, you got a healthy Michael Conforto coming and back. And as Dan O'Dowd said last night on MLB Now, that don't forget he blew the first 6 months of the season, or first 3 months of the season. He really wasn't healthy. I mean, that was a very tough injury he had in 2017, and he did not really. He should have come back in May as the original plan, I think. They should have never brought him back that quickly, and so you're going to have him healthy. We saw what he could do when he was healthy. So him coming back, is that enough with the addition of Cano? And what do you think about that, Jeff and Len?
Well, I think with Cespedes, you had the that heavy hitter, that kind of fear factor you had. We have to pitch around Cespedes. It would be great if Conforto could be that type of player where the other teams want to pitch around him because he could be that good. But it doesn't have that fear factor yet. With Cano, he can add some pop. I mean, Frazier's a nice guy, but you just it's all or nothing with him, and he's really more nothing than all. I really think we need to upgrade that position because he just strikes out too much. But I'm hoping that Nimmo can get on base at a very high clip, maybe bring the average up along with the walks. And if Conforto can really, put the ball out, hit the ball all fields, use all fields, and put some pop over the wall, that'd be great.
So if the season starts today, who's your big bat in the lineup? Conforto?
Conforto and Cano.
Cano, yeah.
And
Ramos.
And Ramos, right?
Yeah. Remember, Cano is coming off a suspension for steroid use, right?
But he never misses a game except for that.
I understand.
Every day.
But he's also he's towards the end of his career. I think he's going to have a good year.
Well, let me address that one
Okay.
second. He's, 35, 36 years old?
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
something like
Jesus played until he's 40. Nobody made a mention about his age when he was getting 35, 36, 37. He was still lauded as a very good player. Why isn't Cano?
And he was playing in a position that really, had he moved to third base, he might have been able to play another couple of years because he probably, it's not the wear and tear of the position. And second base is, it's tough, but he may be another first baseman that we have.
Right, but my point is, when did 35 become old?
maybe when you get traded to the Mets,
Right.
it becomes old.
Okay.
I just hope he doesn't turn into another Baerga.
Okay. So Cano and Conforto, those are your big bats.
And Ramos and then supposedly Frazier. But
You hope Frazier
or Alonso down the road.
Alonso,
Right. Yeah.
Alonso,
Right.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true.
Right.
Good
That's
point.
who you're hoping, but because right now they could really use one more big bat. They could use another bat in that lineup.
And
I
if
don't
the
know who they're
price
gonna
comes
get.
down, I'd love them to go after A.J. Pollock, and then Lagares becomes your fourth outfielder. You know someone's going to get hurt,
Right.
and he'll get his playing time, and as a part-time defensive replacement center fielder, he's fine. You always have it's Broxton or I get the two guys mixed up too.
it's Broxton.
Okay, you can always just have him at Syracuse. Isn't it wonderful that it's not Vegas anymore? They don't have to make that ridiculous 3,000-mile trip to bring up a AAA player. So for the depth in the organization, which everyone complains they just didn't have any, to bring these players in, not that we know who these players are, but to get the desperately needed organizational depth, these are pretty good moves. The one thing I don't like, and I think I mentioned that to you the last time, is the role they have in mind for Jeff McNeil as like a super sub. I would just leave him in a position, just put him in a position, if it's a platoon, third base role with Todd Frazier, that would be fine. I'm sure Cano is going to need days off so he could fill in at second. And I still think the Mets need another infielder. They don't have a backup shortstop for Rosario, and they need to fill that. And let me throw this at you guys. As a backup shortstop and a fill-in infielder, what about bringing Asdrubal Cabrera back?
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I would be fine with that.
Yeah,
Why not?
I mean, it's a good point that his name's out there, and is he going to want to come back and be in a backup role? I mean, that's the other thing. He did make that comment that he wanted to get traded 2 years ago. I think when he was here, he did get traded last year, but no, I don't have a problem with that if that's the way they want to go. He knows the city, he can play here, he knows the ballpark, so it's not an awful move by any means necessary.
And these are the Mets. You know he's going to get playing time.
Right.
And that's why I didn't mention the other utility player that's out there, because I don't think he'd want that role as a backup player. That would be Marwin Gonzalez. I think he'd be looking for a regular position, and he'd probably be out of the Mets price range anyway.
Yeah, I would love to get.
He'd be a wonderful acquisition, though.
Yeah.
He would. He can play all over the place.
Yeah. Barry, you make a good point though about the no backup at shortstop. That's a little disconcerting when you think about it, because we don't even have Wilmer Flores, who you could throw in there in an extreme emergency.
Right.
I guess McNeil would be your in a real pinch till they could bring up somebody. As you said, though, this year will be in Syracuse, so it won't be as bad. I don't know. Anybody out there that they could possibly bring in?
Well,
I'm that backup.
I'm actually looking at the Mets 40-man roster, and they still have on the 40-man roster Gavin Caccini, Luis Gomez, and T.J. Rivera. I mean,
Okay.
each of those guys can play shortstop, but they'll probably be down Syracuse if Rosario gets hurt during the game. To put someone in there, it'll probably be a McNeil type.
Galorme would probably be the guy I would think of because he was a shortstop and was drafted as a shortstop, I believe, and then really moved to second so Rosario could play when Rosario got to AAA, I think it was. Maybe it was Binghamton where they both. But Guillerme, as you say, now that you brought that up, he's probably the guy that would be the best to go. Len?
I have the solution. I know who the backup shortstop for the New York Mets can be this season, and his name is Manny Machado. Yes! Yes! There you go.
Play $30 million a year for a backup shortstop. But,
he could fight out for the position with Rosario. They could fight it out. Let the best man win.
Well, listen, I had said that I would have traded Rosario in a Real Muto deal if they could have got a Real Muto, who still was with the Marlins and still threatening to trade him. The Marlins are, so it looks like the Braves may be in on him. And let's take a look at the National League East. And Brody Van Wagenen said the Mets were the favorites. I know why he said that. He's trying to sell tickets, trying to get the fan base excited. There is improvement. I think they will be in more of a contending position this year than they were last year. But, you got to look at some of the other teams. And the Braves have improved themselves. They've added some good players. The Phillies seem to be on the verge of signing Machado, and they've signed David Robertson, and can't think of
Andrew McCutchen is a Philly now, right?
Right.
The Nationals signed a pitcher, Corbett.
Yep.
Corbin.
Yeah, they've got a nice staff.
Well, they lost also Gio Gonzalez, who was a Mets killer.
Well, they traded him.
But now he's a free agent.
Yeah. And the room is now that Harper could be going back to them, and they'd have a good young outfield with Soto and I can't think of the other guy and Harper if he goes back there. So, what do you think of the National League East? Barry, we'll start with you.
Well, the Mets are not the favorites, but if they, and we say this every year, if they get the pitching and it stays healthy, and now that they have fortified the bullpen somewhat, well, more than some, they've got the best closer in the game based on last year's statistics. So the bullpen's going to be better, and it's deeper now that you can have Familia cover the 8th inning, and we can push Seth Lugo to the 7th inning. Still would be nice to get a lefty in there, but if the Mets pitching holds up, they should be in the mix. Now, of course, these other guys have to come through. You need the Robinson Cano that we all know, not the one that was caught with the steroids and now is on the back nine of his career, and you would think his production is going to go down. But again, if the Mets can get some of these players and get some of the depth that they have been sorely lacking, to get some backup players that will get plenty of playing time, they should be in the hunt. As again, it all comes down to, and we say this every year, the health and mostly the pitching. Because their first four, no one's got a first four like that.
Right.
Yeah, with pitching like that, that's what you look at. Their pitching. When you get pitching like that with DeGrom and Syndergaard and Wheeler and Matz, and Vargas will be, I guess, your 5th starter. When you have pitching like that, as long as you could score some runs, you're going to be in every game. Mets' problem the last few seasons, besides health, is they're not scoring runs, and they're definitely not scoring them at the right time. So if they get the offense going, I think they're going to be in the mix, like you said, in the mix. But they're definitely not the best team in the National League East, because look at the year the Phillies and the Braves had, and they've only gotten better.
Well, the Phillies actually ended below 500. They were pretty good at for most of the year, but they struggled down the pipe, but down the.
And where'd the Mets finish?
Well, they finished behind them, but they didn't have a good couple of months,
Right.
But the best thing for the Mets would be for Harper to sign in L.A. and Machado sign in Chicago, or the other side in town, because that will improve the Mets' chances. The Nationals got a nice pitcher with Corbin, although when they lost Gonzalez, they traded him last year. Now he's a free agent. He was really a Met killer, and he's a lefty. And you know what? I'd advocate bringing him in and try to get rid of Vargas. I think that would be an improvement to our pitching staff. The Phillies, McCutchen, could he get bring back the magic when he had in Pittsburgh? I don't know. But like Barry said, they're going to be in the mix. And hopefully if the two big free agents sign out of the division, they'll be will be even better. And remember, the Braves lost Nick Markakis, who was one of their best players last year. So he's out there. I suppose he'll come back, but right now he's a free agent.
And who knows? Well, yes, I know Acuna was terrific, and the other young guy that the Braves had, but can they do it again? Is there a sophomore jinx? The second year, sometimes you can't repeat what you did the first year. And, we saw it with Michael Conforto. He was great when he came up in 15, struggled in the beginning of 16, showed, he came around again, and but it's not that easy to repeat like that. And the same thing with the Nationals. So I think they'll be in the hunt. And like you said, with that pitching staff, if they're healthy, they could be like the '69 Mets on the 50th anniversary of the team, by the way. Get the good pitching, score 3 runs, and win 3-2 or 2-0 or something. That's the way they did it in '69. But I think it's going to be an interesting. It's still going to be an interesting the rest of this offseason, and probably one of the most interesting that we've had in a number of years, as well as the spring training, to see how everything all shakes out, because there are still a lot of questions, and every team has questions. I mean, Washington's still trying to figure out who's playing second base. Colorado's trying to figure that out because Washington lost Murphy, and thank goodness.
He killed the Mets.
Gone.
Oh my! For 3 years. For 3 years, we saw him burn the Mets.
And where did he go again?
Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. So we're not going to see him that much. He's not going to kill us.
We'll see him for 6 games. That'll be it.
He'll probably win the batting title out there, but that's fine. Who cares? And as you say, Gio Gonzalez, hopefully he'll be gone from he's gone from the Nationals now. It'll be good not having to face those two guys as much. But I think it's going to be an interesting thing. I mean, the question it's going to be is, as we said earlier, about Cespedes. Can he be back? Will Alonso make that much of a mark in spring training that they're either forced to keep him or send him down and bring him back up in 2 weeks? Everybody did. Look, the Cubs did it a few years ago with Chris Bryant.
Right.
So, I mean, it's the business. You just got to be used to it now. It is what it is, and you just have to accept it. But it's going to be interesting. We're going to try to get Peter Alonso on his show again. Had him on last November, not this past November, the November before. So I do have a connection. We'll try.
I'd like to address a point Barry made about a lefty in the bullpen. We have right now, I think Daniel Zamora is the lone lefty, and he's still unproven, although I did like what I've seen at him last year. Blevins is out there. We know what he is, and he had a very bad first half. Maybe he was better in the second half. The other lefty that I know is out there, which I'm going to cringe when I say it. I think you guys know.
Ali Perez.
Ali Perez is out there.
Please. He's right on the sheet here. Ali P. I've got him right. I've got him down on my little crib notes here. And you had mentioned him the last show, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he hasn't been a Met for almost 10 years. Yeah. He's still in the big leagues. And as a situational lefty with the Nationals, and I think his last team was the Indians.
Yes.
He must be doing something right to stick around the majors for
he's
almost
a lefty.
10 years after.
Lefty's just...
Mm-hmm. And you know, he's not one of Brody's guys. So, you know, Brody has no legion. Maybe he will bring him in. Who knows? I know the fan base will go nuts, you know, but I'll pay, yeah.
Because the other names, the other potential lefties in the pen are certainly nothing to get excited about. I mean, does Zach Duke excite anybody?
No.
There you go. Okay.
But he is out there and he is a lefty, and you know, maybe he can catch fire or something, or you know, Blevins is an interesting choice because he had two really good years here, and then last year was just horrible, and as you say, the first half of last year. You know, is he done, or was it just you know, bullpens are up and down every year. One year they're good, the next year the same bullpen could suck. You know,
you're right.
Could they bring back Blevins and he'd be good this year? I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't think anybody knows. And you know, we forgot to mention the signing of Familia to bolster that bullpen up. I think that was a very good move by Van Wagen. I mean, he's got guys that he can close if they use Diaz a number of days. He's got Familia he can close. He's still got Giselman. Right. He's still got Lugo. There's a lot of depth there in the pitching staff. Of course, we don't want to use the depth or have to even try to see what depth are. But we still Corey Oswald and the other young guy that can't think of his name either. See what happens when you get older, folks.
The Mets picked up a guy on the Rule 5 draft named Kyle Dowdy, who has to be on the roster this year, or if we have to offer him back to, I don't remember where we got him from. But he's a Rule 5 guy that's got to be on the roster. And what about Franklin Guillorme? He's a prospect who we got, and I think
he got hurt. I think he had Tommy John surgery.
Well, you know, it's funny. You have a list here of players with all their pictures, and it's funny. Kyle Dowdy, he's the only one that just has it's grayed out. They don't have a picture for him. Nobody knows what he looks like.
Knows him, yeah. He's the invisible man, right? Yeah. Well, any closing thoughts about the upcoming season? And Barry, I'll start with you.
No, not really. I think we covered pretty much everything. The needs, the strengths, the weaknesses. Hopefully they'll stay healthy for a change. And they've certainly got the pitching. And I'm looking forward to what BVW. Yes, we want to be cool here. What BVW's next move will be. If you remember last year, you were praising Sandy that the market had come back to him because he waited it out and signed Jay Bruce and Todd Frazier at lower contracts than they were anticipated to be getting. Of course, they both turned out to be disasters last year, and good riddance to Jay Bruce. I mean, what a lousy season! And thank you, Seattle, for taking him off the Mets' hands and pretty much clearing the way at first base for Alonso. And hopefully, I mean, I'm looking forward to the season. Again, with the pitching, you always have a chance. You figure to be in pretty much every game, and with the better bullpen, hopefully better offense. I mean, has to be better, and good health. The Mets should be okay.
Well, at least I think they're going to have a good season. I'm going to stay optimistic, as you would say. And at least when baseball is here and the Mets are playing, we can count on good weather. So
And barbecue weather.
exactly, barbecue, yes. But no, I think we're gonna see a decent season, maybe even better with that pitching. Like I said before, I am really curious to see what Robinson Cano is going to do, and that should be interesting, especially to see him in a Met uniform.
Yeah.
Robinson Cano should be interesting. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. We're a month away from pitchers and catchers, right?
A little over.
Yeah.
Getting
So-
close.
I'm going to be optimistic.
All right. I think it's going to be a better season than last. I think we're going to be more competitive. Really shored up the bullpen and brought in a couple of players. Got rid of some dead wood. I think it's going to be a more competitive National League East with the Mets playing well and the Phillies and the Nationals and the Braves. You're right, Gary. Will Kuna and Albies be as good as they were last year? Who knows? But they are a dangerous team. Freddie Freeman still scares me every time he comes with the Mets. But I think it's going to be more competitive as long as they stay, obviously, and this goes for everybody, stay healthy. But to avoid that terrible month and a half last year of May and June, which was just couldn't win in June, won 5 games. That was just horrible. If we can stay away from that, they're going to be a competitive team in it. They're going to be in it.
I hope they do what they did from the All-Star break on. I think they had the best record in the NL East. So, it's there. Let's hope they can get out whatever they have to get out of that clay that he's molding there. Let's hope he gets molds out a winner.
And they have a better coaching staff this time around.
Yeah, well,
Right.
we've got a manager,
Talk about that.
right? We've got a
Right.
manager in his
Great
second
point.
year, right? You're right. So maybe they won't bat out of order this year.
And they got a bench coach who knows the National League.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference.
Yep.
Big difference.
And I'm looking forward to a really good season for Zach Wheeler. He showed a great second half
Yeah.
last year, and let's hope he can continue that into 2019 this season. Because if they do, watch out, they're going to be really, really good.
And do it for the boys of '69. 50th anniversary. Wouldn't it be nice to repeat that and bring home a world championship for Ed Kranepool and Tom Seaver and Art Shamsky and all of those guys and the late Ed Charles and Buddy Harrelson. It would be great to do it one more time, but
And it'll be great to unveil a statue of Tom Seaver during that weekend.
and Mrs. Payson, they really should do something for Mrs. Payson. She has really no recognition, and I know my friend Michael Acolin, he's on other people on a one-man campaign to bring in a statue of Tom Seaver. He's on a one-man campaign to get a statue for Mrs. Joan Payson, who, without her, good or bad now, all of this would be not possible. So, let's see what happens with all of that. But it seems like they're more open this year to recognize Seaver, and that will be great to have a statue. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming and spending this evening with me and talking some Mets baseball. And thanks again for showing up.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
It's always great to talk Mets baseball.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank all my guests again, Barry and Jeff and Len. And I want to thank you all for listening. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play or YouTube, wherever you listen or view the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. That helps me grow the show and expand it to new listeners. And not sure of the schedule. Might go every 2 weeks until we get into spring training, every other week. But that's why you got to subscribe, so you know when a new episode coming out. And remember, until the next time, to keep the faith, stay optimistic.
And let's go Mets!
Good night, everybody.
Good night.